time out again today for me to talk about this stuff.
Anytime. And if anybody wants to follow us, go to BruceCityWrestling1.com for all the upcoming shows, ticket information, and everything else. Blake, I'm going to see you next Thursday at State Fair.
Definitely.
The shows are at noon and 2:30, so everybody knows.
Sounds like a plan. I'll see you there.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, Blakey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And also, like I said, 1 hour before at 11 a.m., meet up with me. I'll be doing a live show with this microphone in hand on my phone. It's going to be fun. Live on Spreaker Radio 1 hour before the show. So 11 a.m. to 12 noon, right up. My plan is to go right up to the bell time and try to get as many people on as I can. And then I'll try to get more interviews for the Friday show after the first show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You heard Frankie. He's excited. I'm excited. Join us on Thursday.
Hi, everyone. It's Mandy. And when I'm not playing Mrs. Blake or Dean Ambrose's biggest fan or, spoiler alert, Olga, I can be found on mkemomsblog.com. There are 30 amazing women in the Milwaukee area who make up the MKE Moms blog team, and we're all passionate about giving back to the community, about life, and loving our families. You can find us over on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, or at mkemomsblog.com. Please check it out and support us. Thanks.
All right. Next up, as promised, we have Kevin Eastman. He is the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He is here to talk about his Kickstarter campaign that is launching on August 1st, Drawing Blood, the story behind the story. So let's go to me talking to Kevin Eastman about this upcoming project. All right, as promised before the break, I have on the line not only the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but the man behind a brand new Kickstarter campaign, Kevin Eastman. Kevin, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is exciting.
Oh, it's no problem whatsoever. Let's get right into things. You have a brand new Kickstarter campaign starting on the 1st. It is called Drawing Blood. Am I correct? Is the title correct, right?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Yeah, it's really exciting. You know, I've been watching, I love the evolution and all the opportunities that Kickstarter brings to so many creators looking to launch original properties and that kind of stuff. And really exciting. I've participated in many of them, supporting many of them, but at the same time, I feel like what I love about them, it really took me back to my roots in the sense that, you know, Pete and I used our own money as well as we borrowed some money from a few family members to fund the first issue of the Turtles. And so I feel like, you know, with an original sort of raw idea or cool idea like Drawing Blood, I felt like, you know, going back to those roots and creating something that's, besides it being creator-owned, is something that it's no editors, no publishers, no restrictions. Just we want to do a story exactly the way I want to see the story done. So I'm looking for support from so many of those awesome fans have been so awesome to me these past 34 years with the Turtles. I'm hoping they dig this project. I really do.
Well, I always do love good Kickstarter campaigns. I know the last one I was involved in was actually the Mystery Science Theater one, and we all know how that went. So that went fantastic. So
yeah, it's really, you think about it, I think that's where, I always felt like, whether it be independent comic books, independent film, think about the musicians that are putting up videos on YouTube or art.
That's a good point.
Art or comic org. I mean, that's the independent nature is really that's where the heart and soul of creativity really lie.
Trust me, I'm an independent podcaster, so I completely understand. That's what I do.
Yeah, I hear you, man. You're so right.
So, well, let's talk about what we're talking about here, and what is the story behind Drawing Blood, and how do we get here?
It's really, really cool, fun. That I've been in the business comics. One being a fan most of my young life, and then I think I was 21 when Peter and I self-published the first issue of the Turtles. And not only did I go through a number of pretty fun and exciting and crazy experiences within the world of comic books and everything that came outside of that, entertainment, Hollywood, animation, toys. But I've got so many friends that I've known for a couple decades now that have gone through so many similar experiences. I mean, you think of Alan Moore, Frank Miller. There's so many contemporaries. All those awesome Image guys. Everybody's had their own path and their own journey. And this sort of goes back to some of my original inspirations, which is where the spark of Drawing Blood started. Was guys like Jack Kirby, who we love so much, who created most of the Marvel Universe along with Stan Lee and so many others, Steve Ditko. But a lot of those guys at that time and in their lifetime never really profited from the success of the characters. So it was a hard road for them. They enjoyed what they did, but they couldn't reap the successes that they had. But in particular, I was a big fan of Wally Wood. And Wally Wood was one of those genius innovators and inspirations from my earliest years with the EC Comics and so many things he did after. But he had a kind of an unfortunate, kind of tragic life. And I remember reading this article where this interview was talking about all the things that he's contributed to comics, how he redefined the look of comic book science fiction and storytelling and those kinds of things. And the interview said, how you're a legend. I mean, what do you feel when people tell you say that to you that, Wally Wood, you're a legend? And the quote he said was, if I had to do it all over again, I would cut off both my hands. And I thought that was really tragic. And you think about tortured artists, whether you're talking of, tortured musicians, artists, Jackson Pollock, Vincent Van Gogh. Well, I just thought there was an interesting story here to tell. But I wanted to set it in our world, which is me, you, the people listening in the world of comic books. Is not really, to my recollection in recent years, there hasn't really been anything of this type set in our world, the world of comics. And so I really wanted to come up with this, I call it totally fictional true story, where I created, David Avalone is the co-creator. We planted the seed and grew the idea together, if you will. But we wanted to kind of combine, a pinch of, say, Breaking Bad, a pinch of Fideus. Starts out young because it goes kind of everything's set sort of in the here and now, but we flash back to some of his inspirations when he was a kid. It flashes a little bit forward into some hallucinatory scenes. But we wanted to put this character through the paces where he's looking for his path back to creativity, the path back to that spark in his eye, if you will, that made him want to draw comic books in the first place, because he's kind of lost his way amongst so many crazy things going on in his life. And so there's everything in here. I mean, again, there's gunfights, there's thugs, there's hookers, there's it's themed. It's got a nice edge to it. Doesn't go too far, but there's certainly a decent edge to it. But it's set in the world of comic books.
It's funny because almost describing what I think anybody, almost say like in their 20s, goes through, where it's like you're driving, you're driving, and then all of a sudden you hit a wall, and you don't know how to get out of that wall. That's what it sounds like you're describing.
No, you're exactly right, and thanks for pointing that out, because it is so true. I mean, you think, dude, when I was, I remember not thinking I'm going to reach age 21 or age 25, and when you're growing up and discovering the world and having success or limited success or no success, I mean, the frustration can be equal on each of those levels. And it really is, it can be tumultuous. Again, if you're applying it to, you imagine, look at sports stars or musicians or young actors. The same rule of school of thought can be applied to comic book artists. I mean, it's a real bona fide industry. I mean, when you think of where people can do very well, especially with creator-owned properties now. When I was younger, and I remember telling 9 or 10 years old, telling my parents I wanted to be a cartoonist like Jack Kirby when I grew up. They had this mortified look, like, oh my goodness, we're going to have one of those kids that never moves out of the basement. You can't, your dad saying, you can't make a living doing comic books. You're crazy. You have to learn the trade so you can support your family. These days, it's not completely unreasonable to think that you could start and have a decent, respectable career in comics, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's true. It's a whole different life now. It's actually like that in just about every field. It feels like where in the digital age you can make yourself famous just by putting something on a line. That's kind of what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great. It really, like goes back to the very start of our conversation. The independent podcaster, independent, musician, independent artist. And I do. People ask me today, like, hey, well, how can I break into the comics these days? And it's like, online, man. It's like, get out there, social media, show your stuff. Meet people. There's ways you can reach a global audience instead of. Back when Pete and I did it, it was a limited number of comic stores in the States, and there was a distribution system to them, and that was our only outlet back in those days. So there's a world of opportunities out there, especially for independents.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Well, taking us back to here, you were describing the different details. What in the Kickstarter campaign itself, what can people expect? They sign up for the Kickstarter. What's the price range going on? What's all the details for that part of it right there?
Sure. Well, you can find out some basic grassroots details. Anything you want to find out about the Drawing Blood Kickstarter, you can go to KevinEastonStudios.com. It's my fan site, which says where I am, what I'm doing, conventions I'm going to be at, different things coming and going, and comings and goings and all that stuff. But the vision we have for the story of Shane Bookman is with this particular volume, it's going to be a trade paperback where we'll have. Basically, we call it Volume 1, which is the first, what would be kind of the equivalent, I guess, 4 comic book issues in one trade, which sort of takes you from the beginning, and you start your journey of discovering, through some flashbacks, and it's everything sort of set in here and now. Ben Bishop is the main series artist. I'll have a couple pages of flashbacks in each issue, and Troy Little is going to be adapting and recreating he's going to be recreating the radically rearranged Ronin Ragdolls issue, which is the thing that sort of set Shane down this path of success and then disarray. These 3 feline samurai cat characters. So there'll be some hallucinations where he's haunted by some of his characters. He flashbacks remembers where his original inspirations are, and while he's struggling through gangsters and thugs and just different characters around his life, other artists in the world of comics. But if you broke it down to, say, if we were doing a monthly comic, David Avalone, the co-creator, and I, we've got enough material to do 3 years of monthly issues.
Oh wow!
But right now we want to start with the first 4 in case everybody hates it, which I hope they don't. But this first volume starts you down the path and lets you know what you're in for. So if the fans dig it, then hopefully they'll continue to support it if we can continue working on that series. So the Kickstarter itself will basically offer the trade paperback, and if we hit a certain milestone, they'll get the radically rearranged Ronin Ragdolls issue free. If we hit a mark, we want to reward them. Hey, here's the trade paperback. You get the digital copy of the trade paperback, and then if we hit our level, we're going to give you the 32-page origin of the Ragdolls for free.
By the way, I give you credit for saying that so quickly. I was reading the press release. I'm like, I don't know how you say that so fast. That's impressive.
So it's the same as, even like I still stumble on things. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's like I've just done it for long enough, but it is one of those kind of, it's, when you think back of, it's almost looking at what we're doing with Drawing Blood in some respects is similar to what we did with the Turtles, first issue, in that it started really as a parody of all things comic books, and we're sort of parodying, the comics industry, parodying, the